What are your thoughts on appendices? And I'm not referring to the last 500 pages of The Lord of the Rings here. I'm talking about your little your little guy inside your intestine just chilling around. You know what I'm saying? That thing, the appendix, of which multiple people appendectomize themselves throughout their life and rip that thing out for reasons I understand. A lot of young people do it. And the article that I'm addressing is called Show the Appendix Some Respect. So, as I said before, similar to Tolkien's work, there's possibly a lot to glean from understanding an appendix, um, but it's not always necessary. So, we're going to dive into why it could be useful in its contribution to mental health. And when I say dive in, this is probably only going to be a couple minutes long, but the key takeaway here is if you had an appendectomy at any time, but specifically in your younger days, are you more likely to have psychiatric illness, psychological issues, mental health issues? The main point here being is your gut microbiome connected to your mental health, and how your appendix contributes to that doesn't matter. This author, Scott Anderson, says yes. And I think it's worth noting I am not a gut scientist by any means. I am a mental health professional, and I can speak to that. So a lot of this is going to be input from this researcher, I believe, this author. What is he? Journalist, author. Wait, does he even research? Information gatherer at the very least. Takeaway here, though, is understanding how your gut microbiome affects your brain. And so the idea here is, yes, actually your appendix does play a role in managing kind of what goes throughout your body and specifically what can get into your brain and possibly produce low mood, fatigue, things that I'm sitting here reading and being like, do I have an appendix problem? Because my mood and my fatigue are not the most fun things to deal with. So, yeah, this is, I've done a video before on gut microbiome from articles, and I do think there's enough there that people should consider that when they're struggling with mental health, especially if a lot of interventions aren't working. Is this a gut issue? And that might sound overly, I don't know. Some people feel like that might sound a little too home remedy, naturopathic, but I only see the evidence stacked towards that being a relevant factor, not for everyone, but often enough for enough people that it feels relevant to me. So the pretty wild data point here is that people who have their appendix removed in childhood have a 20% higher rate of psychiatric illnesses and disorders. That's a pretty insane number, 20% higher rate. Specifically, a notable increase in depression, bipolar disorder, and anxiety. Those suck. So hard to live with that. And to have that likelihood increase, if you're already predisposed, the appendectomy doesn't help, seemingly. And this is really cool. They did control for, well, was it the appendicitis that caused this? And they looked at other patients who had issues with appendicitis who did not receive an appendectomy. So appendicitis being the precursor there for an appendectomy, the removal of the appendix. They found that those that were dealing with appendicitis and still have their appendix, no notable change in mental health issues. So something specific about removing the appendix, which led these researchers to, and this was done in Sweden. There's a larger Swedish study of 752 people. And it was a notable enough difference that they started urging doctors to try to use alternatives to treat appendicitis prior to removing the appendix because of just the incredibly notable increase in mental health issues that seemingly happen later in life. There's still a lot of research that needs to be done for any conclusive information on possible interventions to prevent appendectomies, which seemingly is about the route of 90% of patients with appendicitis. At some point, they'll go that route. um, but encouragements are, if you've had an appendectomy, it could be useful, and you're noticing depression and anxiety and bipolar disorder, just any mental health issues, could be worth it just to do a gut check. I apologize, I can't give you the proper route. I've actually never done one, and increasingly lean towards doing one. But to check your gut microbiome and just do a test to see how you're doing. Whether you've experienced this or not, it is recommended from here to just focus on maintaining or improving a healthy diet overall. Really specifically, there, it's having a diet that is good for your gut health as well as good oral hygiene, because that's the route to your digestive tract. Just treating those things really well. That's a very strong recommendation. I mean, we have that already: eat well and brush your teeth and things like that. But as an added layer, that it could actually affect mental health. We've heard this before, like oral hygiene affects mental health, and I think it's less of a link from here to here and more of a link from here down to here and then back up into your brain through your body, through your blood, through everything that you're digesting. So yeah, just a really fascinating point. One of the things I like about mental health, it's both encouraging and scary, is so many things affect it. I feel like you almost have to be an expert in every field to work with mental health. You have to be a sociocultural expert. You have to be a overall medicine expert. You have to be a physical hygiene expert and just a biologist and a nutritionist and a trainer. Like all these things that go into mental health, and this is just another area of your gut microbiome. So if anything, leave this feeling encouraged that holistic health is good. Taking care of yourself on the whole is a really solid route towards your mental well-being. So yeah, that is that. Check your gut health if you need to. I probably need to as well, and maybe if I do, I'll bring it up here. But yeah, that's that. Always fun information there.